Hi, everybody. Welcome to the One Book, One Norristown YouTube channel. I am Monica D'Antonio, founder and coordinator of One Book, One Norristown. As you know, if you've been following our YouTube channel, we are an arts and literacy initiative aimed at bringing our community here in Norristown an experience with a famous or quasi-famous author and their works, and we try to connect literacy and the arts. So we are so pleased today to have two fantastic guests who partnered with us during One Book, One Norristown's inaugural year in 2022. And now that we are gearing up for 2023 One Book, One Norristown, we wanted to kind of circle back to some of the projects and great experiences that our students and our community members had around Lorene Cary's text, and Lorene was our partner in 2022, if we remember. And we want to talk a little bit about some of the great projects that happened during 2022, and then also take a look going forward as we're preparing for One Book, One Norristown 2023 with our partner author, Daniel Jose Older. We want to just discuss how we can get ready for 2023 and how we can create some great projects as we think about our next guest coming to visit with us in September. So with that said, I am going to turn it over to our guests, Audrey and Jill, to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their programs, and then we'll jump into what they did in 2022 to connect their organizations with the One Book, One Norristown project. So I'm going to call on Audrey first because she's my top screen, if she doesn't mind starting.
Age before beauty, right? I'm Audrey Freedman, and I'm a mentor with Expressive Path, an art mentor. So Expressive Path is an organization that offers opportunities to introduce students to arts that they may not have a lot of opportunity to become familiar with. And we integrated with Jill Myers, and let Jill introduce herself.
Okay. First of all, Audrey, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you since you were in my classroom. My name is Jill Myers, and I'm a teacher at Norristown Area High School. And I also do mentor work. And I guess I'll ask, you can ask Monica how we, how we worked with the One Book, One Norristown in my classroom.
Great. So how did you work with, no, I'm just kidding. Okay. Back us up a little bit. Give us some context. We're both English teachers. We know we need the full story, right? I love being a storyteller and listening to people's stories. So tell me, how you all kind of partnered and found each other and built a project together around Lorene's texts.
Okay, so we read an excerpt from Lorene's text in my classroom, and we had the idea with Expressive Path for the kids to do a artistic representation from the text, either something symbolically or a plot-based character. And that's when we were connected with Audrey, and she came in with another teacher for the entire, to all of my classes, which was pretty amazing. And she had canvas and paints, and the kids loved it, and they painted, and we listened to music, and everyone from the hallways was trying to come in because they wanted to paint too, and we opened the doors to them. And it was just really amazing to see my students use their creativity in ways other than they use traditionally in the English classroom.
So I was going to add, just going forward, I think we just gave the kids a lot of freedom to express themselves the way they would like to. And I think that was a real big part of the success. I gave them some of the painting techniques and kind of helped them understand how to work with paint. Because not all that, again, this is part of what we're trying to do, is give the kids the opportunity to. We worked with acrylic paint and canvases, and I don't think a lot of the kids have had much experience with that. And it does take some practice and getting used to how to blend colors. So But as far as the expression, we gave them a lot of freedom and they rose to the occasion. So that would be what I would advise for future participants in this. Just the kids will rise. So give them the opportunity to express themselves, and they bring meaning to it.
Yeah, and I think it really built a community in the classroom as we work to create those pieces, and just talking to each other, and having the two art teachers in there and kind of drawing out how literature is connected to art. And like I said, we had a lot of music playing, and remember you did those warm-ups with them? You did like a physical energizer.
Yeah. Fitness is my original, well, not my second career, but my longest career in life. So,
and I learned a lot. I mean, I'm not used to painting, so I got it super into it as well. It was nice being a student that day.
And I think the kids really enjoyed the freedom and a more relaxed environment. So I think that was really nice and an important idea. And so I'll just talk, even though you didn't ask me a question, if you don't mind.
Sure, please.
So one of the things that Expressive Path does, we have community creators, which is part of what this was for. And part of what we do at Community Creators is every Friday evening, we have essentially a social group for children interested in the arts. And we just offer them different projects pretty much every week. And it's pretty loose. We give them something to eat. When I'm there, I'll usually try to do something fitness oriented with them. And Jill came for one session and she did journaling with them. So I just wanted to, this meant so much to me, because I want to quote something from the book, because I think journaling was such a significant lesson in the book. So I'll read a quote from the book that Harriet was teaching Etta, who was the main character's oldest daughter, basically teaching her in general. And she says, "We must make a record of ourselves. Record yourself, children, because no one else will do it for you, and learn from the greatest minds that by far the larger part of slaves know as little of their ages as horses know of theirs, and it is the wish of most masters within my knowledge to keep their slaves thus ignorant. They seldom come nearer to it than planting time, harvest time, cherry time, springtime, or fall time." So their personal histories were not known to them. And now part of educating is journal your personal history.
Yes.
Or it's going to be lost. And art is the way to have immortality.
Absolutely. I totally agree. My students and I talk a lot about storytelling and the importance of storytelling, and, not just for the sake of again, creating great art and great stories, but this is the record. This is the record of us as a people, of what's happening in the world around us, in our society, in our personal lives. It's a record of our identity building, right? So, writing and storytelling, no matter how you tell stories, you might
Right.
put it through music, through dance, through literature. This is how you control your narrative. So no one else can do it for you, right? You got to own it and have agency over it. And I do want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, which is kind of taking it to the literacy angle a little bit more, which is, where do you kind of see these connections of building literacy skills or interest in reading and writing by bringing in these other medium, right? Bringing in the painting, the journaling, the playing instruments, dance. So what do you see as the connection between those art forms and literacy development?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jill.
Okay. I think especially as, with everything being so digitized now, and social media just splitting all these kids' attention span into, a million different pieces. if we can get these kids in here with all of the humanities, I mean, they're already like have really amazing taste in music and art and, you know, anime and all these things that they're consuming. And by bringing this text into a community, it brings the adults into that world as well, so that we're learning from them. It isn't just, you know, them passively learning in kind of that traditional sense. So I think by bringing in these things that kids are already experts in, it like brings school alive in a way. And that's another thing that I really loved about this project, and that I can't wait to do next year with our new author.
That's awesome.
One of the things I was going to say, I heard somebody say that if we don't have the arts, what is everybody going to write about?
Right?
Which is, you know, so many of life's stories revolve around the arts. And the other thing I remember listening to was somebody saying, oh, everybody's taking 1 million pictures on their phones. And they were saying, print those pictures because they will disappear. Things get lost. And I had a personal experience of my phone getting destroyed, and I was not backed up, and all of my pictures are gone. And I know, but it was the lesson I should have realized before it happened. But it's true, you know, when everything's out in the cloud, it's going to get lost.
Yeah, this is all, I mean, it's all so true. It's just, again, it's that documenting, it's telling your story and having agency over it. It's creating community, how Jill said. So on that note, in terms of kind of building that community and building trust with students and kind of getting them involved in projects like this, what do you think are some of the best ways in your experience to get more kids involved in the arts, in literature, in literacy in general, and showing them, or I don't even want to say showing them, like, you know, sort of just facilitating this desire for knowledge, the desire to create things and be an owner of that. How can we as educators in whatever space we're in, how can we do a better job kind of engaging youth around the arts and around literature?
I think that, you know, Audrey said it really well when she was in there, just giving so much freedom to the kids. The kids are so sick of people telling them what to do. I mean, as you know, especially the age group I work with, teenagers, they're rebelling as their job pretty much. So if you can give them agency and autonomy, and especially with their creative outlets, that's key. You just have to put it back on them and give them the ownership. And then you'll be so surprised at what they can come up with. You know, everyone thinks that kids need all this structure, but they don't. You know, they need to be able to think outside the box and be validated when they do.
Yeah.
So part of it, I think, is just introduce them to different ways of expression. And, you know, when they find something that clicks with them, spark the fire. It's just so individual what is going to work. Introduce them to so many different types of books and styles. And
yeah, you're right. I mean, because I think they think sometimes there's one way. Like just as an example, in my freshman composition class, I teach a developmental or remedial class for students that are not yet prepared to go into college level writing courses. And we actually do the first essay of the semester together. We collaborate, we build it together. I mean, every sentence we write together as a group. And they always are like surprised by this process. They're like, you know, I always thought writing was just I'm sitting alone in a room by myself, you know, and I feel like that is the image we give off in pop culture, right? I think about like the writer at their typewriter, like smoking a cigarette and drinking a whiskey and typing away all by themselves, right? And it's this idea of the writer as this isolated, alienated person, which may be true for some authors,
right?
right? But we don't often talk about writing is communication. You have an audience. There's automatically a relationship here, right? So the idea that writing's not collaborative is just false right from the start, because you're writing a lot of times for an audience. It's a built-in partnership, from the first step of the process. So I think you're right, like this introducing kind of novel ways of thinking about art and thinking about writing and reading, and that there's not just this standard, one standard kind of writing, one standard kind of painting or making music. I think that exposure to all the different kinds of ways people express themselves is vital. I did want to ask, so before we move on to kind of talking about one book in 2023, my sort of final question for 22 was, we partnered with Lorene Cary. She was an amazing person to work with. She really supported me personally and mentored me personally along the way. She was wonderful to work with. I felt so giddy every time my phone rang and it was her, because I felt like a famous person was calling me. And I was like, oh my gosh, my phone says Lorene Cary when she called, So I was totally nerding out for the entire year.
But she's like such a mom too.
She is.
She like hug you and be like, "Oh my God, Lorene Cary just hugged me."
Yes, she
Yeah.
is that. She's such a caretaker. She wants to, and she's not, I've had experiences with authors in the past. I've told Jill about this. We used to run a writers conference at Montgomery County Community College. And there are so many authors who, I love them. Their work is important. What they do is important, but they were like divas. Like they were the person like, do you have my brown M&Ms in the green room before I go on? You know what I mean? Like they had all these demands and they wanted to get paid all this money. And, Lorene didn't ask for anything from us. And I really appreciate connecting with these authors that see what we're doing here for the larger community, and that this is really a community building initiative around the arts and literacy. So I respect people that want to partner on issues like that or around projects like that. And Lorene was one of those people. My question is, her books are not super approachable for teens, right? She's a very adult writer. She talks about very serious issues. Her writing is, a lot of things are more character driven than plot driven, which I know for teens is sometimes, what's happening here? There's nothing happening, when really you're just trying to watch characters kind of grow and develop. But, kids want to see action and excitement. So what were some of the challenges working with Lorene's text and or benefits of working with Lorene's text? How did the students respond to her work personally?
Yeah, I made a point to choose an excerpt that was actually, I did 3 excerpts to kind of get the whole narrative of the story. And I focused on the stuff that I knew would kind of go over the best with the kids. So I do think that you need to know your audience, because if kids are turned off by a text, you're not going to get them to be excited about the artwork and about the music and the dance. And so I do think it takes someone who knows whatever, if it's a middle school audience, high school, whatever the age is. So just being selective about what you choose. And I showed Lorene all this stuff. Like I showed her my whole lesson plan before I gave it out, because I didn't want her to have a problem with how I kind of, chunked up her book. And she loved it, and the kids liked it. So you have to know your stuff before you do a project like this. You can't just wing it. And I think sometimes when people do community work, that sometimes can happen. So you really need to like dig in. I mean, you and I are already talking about what excerpts we're going to use for this year. And I think it is helpful to have an expert on kind of both, not just literature, but in teaching and education as well. So that's would be my advice, you really need to get in there and do your prep work and know your audience.
Excellent. Audrey, how was sort of the painting and art side in terms of working with Lorene's text and working with the kids?
Like I said, we let the kids take it where they wanted to, and some of them painted more personal experiences. Some of them kind of latched onto the freedom thing, like some of them, needed a little direction.
Yeah.
But they took to it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the art was really the day that we kind of all came and looked at the paintings and things. I mean, I was just really impressed with
I know.
work for sure.
So I'll just pass this on because I wanted to share it. One of the students from Jill's class, she did come to community creators on Friday nights, and one of our projects, they painted for an art competition, and she got an honorable mention for her piece. So yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It's just so satisfying to see that somebody's getting encouragement and recognition.
And Audrey, remember the painting that you and I love so much from that student who he technically wasn't in my class because he was running around in the halls and I pulled him inside so he could paint. You know who I'm talking about?
I think so.
Remember, we were so impressed with it. It looked like a Keith Haring.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So he is in fact no longer at the school. I'm not sure if he's going to graduate or what, but when you said that art is timeless, like his painting is still in my room and he's no longer in the school. So I'll always have that up there and I'll remember, that we did that with him. And that book is what brought that whole moment together, so, I didn't want to bring the whole call down, but I do think it's like, that's really a beautiful thing that we at least have his work, and then it'll always be, I'll bring it out every year. I'll put it up every year and I'll remember it.
That's awesome. And that's right. I mean, the art is timeless and this is,
Ode to a Grecian urn type stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Beauty is truth. Truth is beauty. That's excellent. So I'm really glad. I mean, first of all, Audrey, I'm so glad to hear that about the students that are taking this experience from Jill's class and capitalizing on what Expressive Path has to offer and then taking that to the next level and kind of moving their own work forward. I mean, that's exactly what you hope for. And, I will say in this community, we talk a lot about athletics, right? I know a lot of parents and community members are really all about athletics in Norristown. And I get it. I was an athlete growing up. Like I understand that focus, but the art that I've seen coming out of this community, whether it's, when I worked with the kids at Sakate, when I saw the art that came out of Jill's class, when I went to the gallery night at the library last week, which was all of our schools had, from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, had their art all around the library. And I'm not just saying this because I'm on the school board or because I live here. That art was phenomenal. There are students that are amazing photographers, sketch artists, animators, graphic designers, and this needs to take as much priority, I think, and attention as we give to athletics, because not every kid's going to be an athlete, right? And not every kid's going to be an artist, right? Or whatever, either way. But the money and time and attention that it's not just Norristown, it's a lot of schools that we sink into athletics and student athletes, right? We should address that same level of attention to student artists as well, because it's another outlet, the same way that sports are an outlet to express yourself and show your creativity on a field or, in the batter's box or whatever. That is an expression of yourself as well. But again, I feel like we don't often give enough attention to the arts that we do to athletics. And that's something I'd really like to make a shift in the way we think in this community about that.
Well, it is something that gets cut quickly from school curricula.
Yeah. Well, that's not something that's ever going to happen under my watch on the school board. Sure. I'm constantly talking to our superintendent about expanding arts programs and, expanding theater and music and painting and things like that. So we're working on it. It's everything, any kind of big change is a slow process, but I know that our board and I think our super are very much arts friendly, arts focused, arts appreciators of art. So, I know that's something our board really cares a lot about. And I appreciate both of you being good advocates and stewards for that work as well. So my last question before I get kicked off my free Zoom. Oh, there it is. There's the warning.
Oh, no.
There it is. Okay. So final question is, we're moving forward this year with Daniel Jose Older. He is young. He is an exciting author. He actually only has one adult book out. Most of his work is YA, geared at young adult audiences for folks. Sorry, I use a lot of acronyms. Young adult audiences. So we're really excited to have him. I think he's going to be maybe a bit of a better connection for students than we had previously, or different, I should say, not better. That's the wrong word there. A different kind of connection for our students. So as we're kind of building out programming and moving forward, a lot of folks got some good buzz from all of us in 2022 and now want to be involved in One Book going forward. So what would be some suggestions for teachers in Jill's case, or folks who run programs, Audrey, in your case, folks who run nonprofits, after school programs? What do you think what are some suggestions you could give to them about getting involved in One Book and how to best connect books, authors, and then whatever art medium that organization or teacher is interested in?
I could start on that one if you want. So I think it's almost the same thing we were talking about with the kids, right? So when we met with, like last year, I just was kind of the only teacher working on the project. And this year, Monica came in and we organized around the humanities, which we don't even really have a humanities department. I kind of like self-appointed it that day by calling in the art teachers, the music teachers, and just kind of whoever you're working with in the community, give them that free reign that Audrey talked like that we gave the kids. And just, I would recommend that, your lit people do the heavy lifting. And since we know how to do that, we know how to get kids to read books, we know how to, create lesson planning around that. And then just let the other members of that creative staff bring whatever they want to the table. We're even talking about, hey, you don't even have to read the whole book. We'll give you some excerpts because you all have a lot on your plate. So I think that helps people when you want everyone to come together. No one's going to expect me to like compose a symphony. And I don't think that we should expect them to have to do the heavy lifting with, teaching the book. So, meeting people like in the middle and, making, validating them for their art and for what they bring to the table. So that's my main suggestion. And then anything goes, like just dream, I'm like, how about when I just contacted Daniel Jose Older and he got back to me, I was like, what? So just always try everything. The worst you can have is no one's going to email you back. Who cares? So anytime you do this kind of work, you don't know what's going to happen when you started, and we're only on year 2. And I just think we've come really far this year.
Excellent. And I need to shout that out on our YouTube channel here, our shout out to Jill, because we wouldn't have Daniel Jose Older had Jill just not taken a random shot in the dark and reached out to him on Instagram. And he was excited to, and again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about finding people who understand the mission of what you're trying to do and understand their role as artists, and that, it's important for them to connect with communities, and not just to get their art out, but because this is what storytelling and art is all about. It's about connecting with people and sharing experiences. And he just was ecstatic and wrote Jill right back. And then we connected immediately with his agent. It was so easy. I couldn't believe it. I thought we were going to be like months trying to find somebody and connect with somebody. And Jill got that ball rolling. And I agree with her. Just take a shot in the dark. We're going to fail sometimes, but you know, you're not going to have any successes if you don't just take a shot. So I really appreciate you, Jill, absolutely, for your participation and leadership in this, because it wouldn't be the same without you in it.
Thanks, Ron.
Absolutely. And Audrey, how about you? Any advice for our viewing audience who may be interested in working with us?
All that came to my mind is thinking, I know I love audiobooks, and I think everybody of every age loves to be read stories. So maybe try to introduce more of that into whatever programs you already have. Like, just let them relax and listen to a story instead of having to read it.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think art is a great foray into literacy, but also so is just sitting back. And I'm loving, I'm seeing all around different schools. I'm on all these listservs and English teacher things, nerd things, as I'm sure Jill is, but you know, these pajama parties that teachers are starting to have in their classes, like everyone comes in their pajamas, they bring blankets and pillows, and the teacher just sits and read, and they all kind of nap on each other and lay, and it's like being kids again.
Yeah,
right? And
that's
just
so nice.
Cute.
Yeah, and I love that, because even adults want that. Like if someone invited me to a pajama party and wanted to read with me, I would be there with my Phoebe pajamas and my little stuffed bear, and I'd be there. I would love to be read to. So I absolutely agree with you, Audrey. It's got to be all these different flexible and options. I mean, that really is the best way to connect with the most amount of people, is just keep it free, keep it open, and let people find themselves, you know, in the process. And I think
that's the whole thing. People giving the kids an opportunity to find their thing.
Yeah.
And see, I start thinking about filmmaking. What would get a kid interested? Give them a story and have them make it into a little movie or a film.
Exactly.
I hear another project coming on.
I know.
Yeah, I would like to.
I have the running list.
Going.
I'm sure you do, Jill, right? Like the teacher, like the document that has all the teaching ideas, right? This, oh, I want to do this. I mean, so yes, I agree. Just continue to add those great ideas on there, and give people flexibility and freedom to kind of find their space in the project and make it theirs. Good. So we are almost out of time. My free Zoom account is telling me. I want to thank both of you for joining us today and for letting us know about the great work you did around this project and the work that you do outside of this project. Jill, as always, I'm doing a bow down here, because you're a high school English teacher, and it's hard enough to be anything anywhere these days, but being a teacher is tough, and you do it well, and our kids love you and we love you. So we're so thankful to have you in this district. And Audrey, we love the work that Expressive Path does, and we hope to keep partnering with you. And please invite me to a Friday night sometime. I'd love to come hang out, or just, you know.
Oh, it's so fun, Monica.
Yeah, I could do a project,
definitely
meet somebody, but I'm happy to just come and watch and hang out. So,
or read to the kids.
Or read to the kids. Let's do a pajama party. I'm down. I'm ready. So again, thank you both for your time, and I look forward to connecting again this year for our upcoming One Book, One Norristown, and we'll be chatting soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.